Chapter 3. Elias sat in the corner of the master bedroom, his back pressed against the wall so hard he could feel the texture of the wallpaper through his shirt. The drill was still clutched in his hand like a pistol, his finger hovering over the trigger as if he could unscrew the monster to death. Silence had reclaimed the house. The scratching at the front door had stopped. The handle had stopped rattling. But the silence was worse. Silence meant he didn't know where it was. "Think," Elias hissed to himself. He slapped his own cheek hard. The sting helped ground him. "You're a problem solver. You fix broken things. This situation is just really broken." He couldn't stay in this room. The bedroom had one door. If that thing, whatever it was, came through that door, he was cornered, a rat in a trap. Elias needed leverage, he needed a vantage point, and most importantly, he needed to stop acting like a victim and start acting like the guy who owned the deed to the land. He stood up, his knees popping. He remembered the layout of the house from his brief tour. His grandfather had been an avid hunter before his mind went soft. There was a gun cabinet in the study downstairs, but Elias didn't want to go downstairs. Downstairs was where the scratching had been. Then he remembered the closet in this room. The old man kept a home defense piece. Elias had seen the safe box earlier when he was looking for blankets. He scrambled to the closet, throwing aside moth-eaten coats that smelled like stale tobacco. There it was, on the top shelf, a long, flat steel box. Elias dragged it down. It was locked, naturally. "Right," Elias muttered. He looked at the drill in his hand. Then he looked at the lock. 30 seconds and a lot of metal shavings later, the lock popped. Inside lay a Remington Model 700 bolt-action rifle. Beside it, a box of .30-06 ammunition. This wasn't a gun for burglars. This was a gun for dropping a buck at 200 yards. Elias picked it up. The weight of the steel and wood felt good. It felt real. The scarecrow was just straw and burlap. A .30 caliber bullet traveling at 2,800 feet per second would tear it apart, magic or not. Physics was physics. "Okay," Elias breathed. He loaded the magazine, his fingers fumbling only slightly. "Okay, new plan." He wasn't going to hide. The journal said the thing moved when you didn't look at it. So he was going to look at it. He was going to stare it down until the sun came up. He moved to the bedroom window. It faced south. It had a perfect view of the field. Elias set the rifle on the windowsill, using a rolled-up towel as a rest. It was a sniper's nest, but it was too dark outside. The storm clouds had blotted out the moon, and the rain was a black curtain. He needed light. He ran back to his gear bag in the hallway. He pulled out his portable halogen work lights, the twin-head kind on a yellow tripod. They were battery-operated, industrial-grade. He extended the tripod legs and set it up right in front of the window. He hit the switch. Click. 2 beams of blinding white light cut through the glass, stabbing into the darkness of the backyard. The rain sparkled in the cones of light like falling diamonds. Elias looked out. The light reached past the porch, past the weeds, and hit the south field. There it was. The scarecrow stood in the rain. It was drenched, the tuxedo jacket clinging to its frame like wet skin. The burlap head was dark with moisture, heavy and sagging. Elias put his eye to the rifle scope. The crosshairs settled on the center of the burlap chest. "I see you," Elias whispered. "I see you, you freak." He checked the rows. It was still at row 24. It hadn't moved since he'd run upstairs. The lights were pinning it in place. Quantum mechanics or whatever. Observation froze the state. As long as he watched, it couldn't move. Elias pulled a chair over to the window and sat down. He checked his watch. 9:45 p.m. "Okay, 8 hours," Elias said. "I can do 8 hours. I've pulled all-nighters for drywall inspections. This is nothing." He sat there, the rifle stock against his shoulder, staring down the scope. The first hour was easy. Adrenaline kept him wired.
Every drop of rain that hit the window sounded like a footstep, keeping him on edge. The second hour was harder. The adrenaline faded, leaving behind a cold, damp exhaustion. The house was freezing, the heating system was dead, and the dampness from the storm was seeping through the walls. Elias's eyes started to burn. He blinked rapidly, trying to keep them moist. "Don't blink," Elias muttered, channeling the crazy journal. "Blinking is bad."
He focused on the scarecrow. Through the scope, he could see details he wished he couldn't. The way the rope dug into the neck, the way one of the bone buttons was chipped, the way the hands, just knots of straw at the end of the sleeves, seemed to be twitching, though that might have been the wind. Around midnight, the rain intensified. It wasn't just falling anymore. It was being driven sideways by a gale-force wind. The house groaned under the assault. Elias took a sip of lukewarm water from his canteen. His stomach rumbled. He ignored it. He shifted in the chair. His butt was numb. His back ached. "Just straw," he told himself. "It's just a bundle of straw with a legend attached to it. The old man lost his mind, and now I'm losing mine." He lowered the rifle for a second to rub his eyes. Crack. It sounded like a gunshot, but it came from outside. Elias jerked the rifle back up, peering through the scope. A large branch from a nearby pine tree had snapped off in the wind. It lay across the furrows of the field. Elias scanned for the scarecrow. It was still there, row 24, unmoving. Elias let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. See? Physics. Wind breaks branches, scarecrows stay put. He leaned back slightly, relaxing his grip on the rifle. The rhythmic drumming of the rain was hypnotic. It was a white noise that smoothed out his thoughts. His eyelids felt heavy, like they were made of lead. "Just rest them for a second," a voice in his head whispered. "Just a 10-second count. Reset the optic nerve." Elias fought it. He widened his eyes until they watered. But the fatigue was a physical weight. It pulled at him. He blinked, long, slow blinks. 1. He opened them. The scarecrow was there. 2. He opened them. Still there. 3. His chin dipped to his chest. The darkness behind his eyelids was warm and inviting. Just for a moment. Just a quick power nap to recharge. He drifted. It couldn't have been more than a minute, maybe less. Elias snapped awake, his heart jerking in his chest like a caught fish. He realized he had nodded off. Panic flared hot and bright. He looked out the window. The world was black. Elias stammered. "The lights?" The twin halogen work lights were dark. The batteries were fresh. They were rated for 6 hours. They shouldn't be dead. He reached out to toggle the switch on the back of the unit. His hand touched wet glass. Elias froze. He was inside the room. The lights were inside the room. Why was there wet glass? He fumbled for his pocket flashlight and clicked it on. The beam hit the work lights. They weren't out of batteries. They were destroyed. The thick protective glass on the front of the lamps had been shattered, blown inward. The bulbs were smashed filaments. Shards of glass covered the floorboards. But the window, the bedroom window facing the yard, was intact. Whatever had broken the lights had done it from inside the room, or passed through the glass without breaking it. Elias scrambled backward, kicking the chair over. The noise was deafening in the silence. He raised the rifle, aiming blindly into the dark square of the window. "I have a gun," he screamed, his voice cracking. "I'll kill you." Nature answered him. A massive stroke of lightning forked across the sky, tearing the darkness apart. For a split second, the backyard was illuminated in a stark, flickering blue-white strobe. Elias saw the field, he saw the rows, and he saw the scarecrow. It wasn't at row 24. It was standing at row 10. It had crossed 14 rows in the minute Elias had slept. It was huge now, filling the lower half of the window frame's view. The details were sickeningly clear in the lightning flash. The tuxedo was rotted through in places, revealing dark, slick straw underneath that looked like wet muscle. And it wasn't standing still. In that single flash of lightning, Elias saw it mid-stride. One leg was lifted, the knee bent, the foot driving forward into the mud. It wasn't hopping on a pole. It had legs. It had ripped itself off the post. The lightning died, plunging the world back into pitch blackness. Elias didn't think. He didn't calculate. He pulled the rifle. Boom! The rifle kicked hard against his shoulder. The muzzle flash lit up the room like a bomb going off. The bedroom window shattered outward, glass spraying into the storm. Elias worked the bolt. Clack, clack. A hot brass casing pinged off the floor. He fired again. Boom! Die! He shouted. He fired a third time. Boom! The sound of the shots rang in his ears, leaving a high-pitched whine that drowned out the rain. Elias panted, the rifle smoking in the cold air blowing through the broken window. He clicked his flashlight on and aimed it through the jagged hole in the glass. The beam cut through the rain. The scarecrow was standing at row 10. It hadn't fallen. It hadn't stumbled. Elias held the light steady, his hands shaking violently. He saw 3 black holes in the chest of the tuxedo, center mass, perfect shots.
The scarecrow stood there, unfazed. But as Elias watched, the holes didn't bleed. They didn't leak straw. Instead, the burlap chest seemed to inhale. The holes closed up, the fibers knitting themselves back together like a time-lapse video of a flower blooming, only in reverse. Within seconds, the tuxedo was whole again. The scarecrow slowly lowered its lifted leg, planting its foot in the soft mud of row 10. It raised its head. The blank, eyeless face looked up at the second-story window. Elias backed away. He dropped the rifle. It clattered uselessly to the floor. It's not alive, Elias whispered, the realization hitting him harder than a recoil. You can't kill what isn't alive. He retreated to the hallway door, his mind reeling. He had to get out. He had to run. He would take his chances with the flooded creek. He would swim. Anything was better than this. He grabbed the door handle to the hallway. Then he heard the sound on the roof. Splat. It sounded like a heavy raindrop. Splat, splat, flump. It got heavier, thicker. Elias turned his flashlight towards the broken window. It wasn't raining water anymore. Thick brown sludge was slapping against the windowsill. It was mud. It was raining mud. The sky wasn't weeping. The ground was rising. A glob of mud the size of a fist flew through the broken window and hit the floor with a wet thwack. Then another, then a torrent. The mud smelled of old graves and rot. It was the soil of the south field, defying gravity, coming to claim the house. Elias watched in horror as the mud began to coat the glass of the other windows, sealing them up. It smeared across the panes like brown paint, shutting out the storm, shutting out the night. He was being buried. The pact is blood for soil, Widow Gable had said. Elias stumbled back into the hallway. The air in the house was changing. The ozone smell was gone, replaced by the suffocating earthy scent of a freshly dug hole. The rifle lay on the floor, useless. The drill was downstairs. The truck was flooded. He was alone. No, not alone. Elias pulled his phone from his pocket. No service. Landline, he gasped. The kitchen. There was a jack in the kitchen. He didn't know if the phone was even plugged in, or if the lines were down, or if Widow Gable would even answer. But the arrogance of the contractor was gone. The cynicism of the city boy was dead. All that was left was a terrified man who knew with absolute certainty that he had exactly 10 rows left to live. He sprinted for the stairs.